Hey, what's going on, everyone? I am back once again for another Slim Sports interview. And as always, I'm your host, Jay Slim. And we got an FGCU Eagle in the house from a program that is known for winning. And that is what she has done throughout her entire career. No matter where she has been, always found ways to lead her team to the promised land, be able to contribute at a high level. Ladies and gentlemen, 5'9" guard from FGCU, Karina Gordon. What's going on, Kay?
What's going on? I'm excited to be here.
Hey, definitely excited to get you on. I saw you play in person last year where you were able to help the Eagles to a national tournament appearance, another ASUN championship for that program. And then this past year, you helped start a new era for FGCU under a new coaching staff. And we'll touch on all this stuff here in a sec. But real quick, I want fans, viewers that are just now getting to see your face, learn your name, to get to
Mhm.
know your resume, the championships that you've won already, in a quick segment called Resume Rundown, where I'm going to show off what you do best by doing what I do best, and that's making some graphics. And
Yeah.
I'm going to show off this resume for you. I mentioned already ASUN champions, both tournament and regular season a year ago in the 24-25 campaign. You guys went undefeated in conference action that season as well. And obviously ended up making it to the 2025 NCAA tournament appearance. This past year with FGCU, you guys made it to the 2026 WNIT, still getting those postseason nods. And this
Mhm.
winning background goes all the way back to your freshman year. You made it to the American Conference Championship game during your time with East Carolina, where you were a starter as a freshman. So, obviously, a whole lot of stuff that I just said right there, all of it contributing to one thing, and that's winning. All the way back
Mhm.
to your freshman year. East Carolina, you were a starter with them. You contributed at a high level. Then you
Mhm.
come over to FGCU and you kind of take on a role player type of role with them, with obviously so many talented players that you're going alongside that can score much like yourself. And
Mhm.
now this past season, you take on kind of a starter role again, able to contribute kind of like you did during your time with East Carolina.
Mhm.
And as I mentioned before, obviously the winning background. So you have a whole lot of experience that you can bring to this team. Talk to me real quick about this past season for you and how you would say that the Eagles were really able to utilize those winning experiences that you have.
Yeah, so obviously, like you said, coming from a winning background, and that didn't just start at ECU, that started also in high school. For the people that didn't know, or if you didn't know, I'm a five-time state championship. Every time I went to states, I basically won. So they started calling me like this Lakeland Karina, like because it was in Lakeland. But I would say just having that experience, from the transfers and people that was coming in, like it's different when you're coming from a background that, didn't really know like what was the winning standard. And I would say like even coming in when I came in, like that standard was different here. Like under Carl Semesco and Chelsea, I don't know if I say it, but yeah, Coach Laus, under her and the previous staff, like they really put that standard. And it wasn't just basketball. It was just the little things like sprinting or putting in extra work and just bringing that to this past season. I feel like that really helped. Obviously, we didn't get to where the goal was, but definitely this year.
Yeah, and I mean, this past year was a new era for them after Coach Smesco and Coach Lyles both head off to the WNBA, with Coach Smesco taking obviously the head coaching job of the Atlanta Dream,
Mhm.
where I mean, he's one of the best coaches in the history of college basketball with his winning percentage. I believe they made it to like the past 10 NCAA tournaments. Obviously, you were with them 24,
Yep.
25 if you include that one as well.
Mhm.
And Head coach Raina Harmon, she comes in and she takes the reins. She's taken
Yep.
over and kind I remember hearing from a press conference, she wants to continue the culture that was set in place, but also be able to develop this new era. Talk to me real
Mhm.
quick about her impact on the new style of FGCU, if you would call it a new style, and also
Yeah.
her impact on you as a player.
Mhm. I would definitely say it's a new style, as in we can shoot mid range. It's different. But I would say her impact, like she's high level too. She came from Iowa. She coached Caitlin Clark. She coached high level players, and she was D1 herself. So she made a very impact on me, instilling confidence in me, telling me from day one. And I feel like it's shown, on the court, like the roles were different from last season and this season. Well, you know what I mean, the last couple, the 24-25 season. And I just think she's great. Like everybody can say she's great too.
Hmm.
I also think you have to trust the process. Like it was her first year. A lot of people, didn't. I don't think it was a lot of negative talk, like you said, but you have to trust the process. And I would say it wasn't a rebuilding year, but it was like rebuilding in a way. Like she has her own style. It's not just going to be the same like under Carson Mesco and Chelsea. Like it's completely different now. But we still want to hold that standard and win.
Absolutely. I have a lot of faith in Coach Harmon, and if she watches this, she's always welcome on the podcast as well. No doubt in my
Yeah.
mind, she's going to have a very bright future as a head coach throughout her
Mhm.
career. And obviously, when you're stepping into the shoes that Carl Semesco left, it's hard to fill those shoes, but I have a feeling she's going to be getting the Eagles back to the NCAA tournament very soon.
For
And
sure.
as you mentioned there, as we talked about before we started recording, you know,
Mhm.
some people, some Eagles fans might have viewed this past season in a different light than you and I would.
Yeah.
And that's partially because you guys started off this season 4-7 entering ASUN action. Eagles fans aren't used to that. They're used to, going undefeated in non-conference or, dominating obviously all throughout, whatever you want to put. But some of those wins were against very tough opponents.
Yes.
Stanford and FAU. And you guys
Mhm.
also competed against, I believe, Indiana and South Carolina came and played you guys at your place. Obviously, two very tough teams as well. So if you're going to fall to those teams, at least you're competing against them. You're putting up shots and you're showing people that you still belong on the same stage as them. Talk to me real
Mhm.
quick about that non-conference schedule and especially getting that big win over Stanford and FAU to where
Mhm.
you guys saw some bright spots heading into ASUN play.
Yeah. I felt like we were able to compete, especially with the Stanford game. I don't think it was on ESPN Plus, but it was broadcasted. But to me, that was one of our best games, like our most complete games from our whole starting five to even people coming off the bench. Also that game was very exciting. I know a fan told me like he was surprised and shocked one time that we won. I'm like, you just haven't seen you haven't seen like our full ability and like our full strength. But that game we definitely were at our full strength. And the FAU game, for the competition, we went in there and we just wanted to win, uh for the competition, friendly competition. But they're a great team, great staff. And then just with South Carolina and Indiana, South Carolina, we didn't back down, but South Carolina's big. They're a great team. Don Staley, like, yeah, they're very big. But we didn't back down. We went in there believing that we could win. And Indiana, they were good. They were good. But we were right there. But I would just say from coach, I would say Coach Reina and the staff, believed in us and believed that we need to handle, the adversity early before we get to the conference play. So we play, big teams and competitive teams, and they went and they're big in their conferences. So I think it was just great for us. Like we didn't back down. And I don't think, this year, I'm not going to say too much, but we're not going to back down this year either.
Hey, you got to have that confidence when you're going against whoever you are planning to play in the schedule. I don't know what your guys' schedule looks like this upcoming season non-conference action. I do hope FAU is on the schedule because I know one of your former coaches, Carrie Jewett Giles, she is now an assistant with FAU. Shout out to Carrie. She's a great friend of the podcast as well. And obviously, all throughout the season, you were dropping buckets left and right, doing what you do for the Eagles. And I want to show off some of these highlights real quick in a segment that I like to call Make That Play where
Yeah.
I went through Synergy and I put together what I feel like were your top three plays from this past season. But I'm just a stats guy. I'm just a fan of the stands. You're the one
Yeah.
on the court doing what you do best. So, what would you say was your best play from this past season?
Wow, my best play. Ooh. Ooh, I would say I don't know. Okay, one of my favorites when we were in Vegas and I hit three triples back to back to back. And those were one of my favorite plays. And I feel like for the team and for myself, that was just the energy and just confidence booster. Like, yes, we can win, we can beat a great Stanford team and just going forward. And for myself, obviously that instilled, a lot of confidence in me, knowing that, I'm a great shooter. But I would say those are maybe one of my top plays. I know I had a couple of step back threes in there, but I would say that was one of my best.
Oh, well, it's funny enough that you mentioned that because if I'm right, that was the Stanford game, and that sequence is number one on my list altogether right
Okay.
there. And I'm going to get to that here in a second. I'm going to start off at number three.
Mhm.
Also going against Stanford, but this is a defensive play, a big time block that you had to tie up the ball and get FGCU the possession back, where you just ended up reading your opponent perfectly. Saw the
Mhm.
pass, saw that your opponent was coming towards you, and right when
Mhm.
she went to go get that shot up, you got your hand up and you swatted that thing, but held on to it and got the
Mhm.
tie up. Ended up getting a jump ball situation where FGCU got the possession back there. That's at number three. Number two, going against North Alabama, you hit a big time three against them where you got the ball in the corner, came up to the top of the arc off of a screen, and with the
Mhm.
defender on your hip, you kind of gave him a little shove off, said, "Nah, I'm getting some space," and you hit, like you mentioned before, a step back three where
Yeah.
you just sunk that thing, nothing but net there. And at number one, absolutely back to back triples against Stanford. And with those three triples, that helped keep your guys' lead in double figures. I believe you guys, that last one put you guys up by 11 points and helped
Yeah.
lead you to a big time win over an ACC opponent against Stanford. So those three plays right there, obviously a whole three of a whole lot that you had this past season. Like we mentioned before, you were lighting it up from long range all throughout the season, all the way
Mhm.
from the beginning of the season, where early in the year you guys played Ave Maria and you
Mhm.
had 24 points against them. And
Mhm.
obviously, you had a big impact going against Stanford, where you had 12 points. Obviously, those three made threes there. And FAU, you had 10 points with three assists as well.
Mhm.
Talk to me real quick about just finding your role offensively in this system, because I'll touch on the team as a whole here in a bit, but as far as you go, your shots kind of varied, whether it was getting two or three shots off in the game or being able to
Yeah.
go off and score a whole lot against some of these other teams like Ave Maria. How
Mhm.
would you say you were able to kind of find your role, and when did you know it was your time to, let it fly?
Yeah. I would say just understanding who's on the team and just understanding each other's strengths. I feel like Sinai RPG, she knew my strengths and she would, put everybody, not just me, in the right spots. And I would say finding my role, I would say that also came with communication off the court and on the court with my coaches, having, the one-on-ones with Coach Harmon, um, Coach Raina, Coach Harmon, same thing. But yeah, I would say just instilling that confidence within me, like knowing like, okay, this is my shot, or just maybe this is my shot, but giving it up for a better shot. Because I will also say I'm a good passer too. I don't think I'm selfish. So even if I know some games I shot more than others, or some games I shot less, knowing that I'm a great shooter and a great player, but I would just say understanding personnel and understanding who you're around, because I really do think that we had great talent and also the people around me could also score. I really feel like the whole starting five and even people off the bench, any night you could have went for 20, or any night you could have went for double digits. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you there. You yourself, you averaged about 6.5 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, shot nearly 35% from beyond the arc,
Yeah.
and obviously had those great performances with the 24 points, seven assists against Ave Maria, and then your performances against Stanford and FAU as well. And
Mhm.
as you mentioned, anybody could have gone off for double figures any night. And that's part of
Right.
the reason why it was so distributed across the roster when it came to the scoring. You guys only had two players that averaged double figures, and nobody scored over 11 points per game. Your guys' leading score was at about 11.4 points per game, somewhere around there, because
Mhm.
you guys had multiple options that could go, from
Yeah.
yourself to your guys' point guard, Serena Roll, who came back, Macarena
Yeah.
Redamala is off the bench. She could light it up here and there.
Mhm.
And obviously, so many other names I'm not even mentioning. And you guys actually took not just some a lot of shots, but efficient shots. You guys ranked first in the ASUN in field goal percentage. Very, very talented at making sure that you took smart shots. How
Mhm.
would you say that having all of these different options was really able to allow this FGCU offense to flow properly?
Mm-hmm. Because I would say, how most coaches or most teams kind of look for that one player, like you run the plays just for that one player. I think we're very versatile. Even though we had our positions, I think, like you said, we had two people in double digits, and the rest were any given night somebody could win up for 20. Even we had Maka, Anna, Jordan, Eve, like any person you name can play, not play any position, but what's the word I'm looking for?
Versatile.
Yeah, versatile. Yeah, anybody, and they're very versatile.
Oh yeah, absolutely incredible roster.
Mhm.
And obviously having players like yourself, Maka, Serena, who all
Mhm.
came back from a year ago, who were bought into this new system, obviously that helped a ton. And that's a
Mhm.
big reason your guys' belief in being bought into the system is why you guys started ASUN action pretty strong. You guys had four straight wins to open up conference play. And even though, you guys went a little back and forth throughout the rest of the way, still managed to pick up some really good wins against tough opponents in ASUN action, including Stetson, who was a 20-win team this season, beat them in the regular season finale, blew
Mhm.
Bellarmine out of the water in the ASUN
Yeah.
tournament that first round, just absolutely dominated from the opening tip. Talk to
Mhm.
me real quick about the winning mentality that FGCU is known for. You guys know, okay, non-conference play may not have gone the way we wanted it to, but we
Mhm.
know what FGCU basketball is all about, especially the returners like yourself. How would you
Mhm.
say that that winning mentality really started to take place to where you guys were also able to get that postseason tournament appearance in the WNIT?
Hmm. Yeah, the win mentality, like we said, like the first thing we said in our meeting was, we know we have a standard, and Carl, Coach Carl Semesco, he set that standard, and we don't want to be the people that bring the standard down. We want to uphold it or even make it higher. And once we lost the conference game, a lot of people are like bashing us, like we had talked about, like you said. But I feel like we've shown and we beat certain teams that it was like, okay, like you can see it this night, like wow, yeah, like yeah, they have that one mentality. But I would say, like, from the returners bringing, talking to the new people, like, if we're down, like we have been down before, things just haven't been perfect, but we know, or we have that winning mentality, and we know the standard, like we can win this.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Hey, absolutely. There you go. And that's why you guys were able to get those big time wins. Is I believe you guys had a 3-game win streak there towards the end of the regular season, doing what you guys did there. And obviously, FGCU, as we talked about, over the past decade and a half, I mean, I can't even count how many times the program's been to March Madness, been to the national tournament.
Right.
And obviously,
Yeah.
this past season, you guys were able to get that nod to the WNIT, still getting those postseason nods. And obviously, the plan next year is to get back to the NCAA tournament, which, knowing your guys' culture, very
Mhm.
good chance that you guys end up making that dream become reality next year. But talk
Yeah.
to me real quick about going into year two of this new era with Coach
Mhm.
Raina Harmon, where you guys obviously you're with the program. I'm from
Yeah.
the outside looking in. What can
Mhm.
you say? Obviously, you can't give away the whole scheme and everything like
Yeah.
that for
Mhm.
any scouts that might be watching, which I'd be
Yeah.
surprised. But how would you say fans should be looking towards next season to where, okay, we're back in business?
Right. Yeah, I feel like fans should be very excited. No, I don't think, if you're a real fan, you understand that, it's a little adversity, and I think we went through, a lot of adversity, and the fans weren't used to it. But, if you're a loyal fan, you'll stick around and, not talk bad. But I definitely think you'll be very, excited, and you'll be looking in the stands, and you'll be looking from the stands and be like, that's the FGC right there. That's what I'm used to right there. But I'm very excited, not giving away too much, but we have a lot of great pieces that we added to the roster, the newcomers. I just think it's gonna be great. It's gonna be an exciting season. It's gonna be when we play, it's gonna be some upsets, but look forward to, going to March Madness again, and not being cocky, but winning the ASUN championship, and just when having that standard that we're used to.
Hey, there you go. Obviously, you have that winning mentality from your entire basketball career. And, not just yourself, but a lot of your teammates have a great winning background and have that great mentality to go off and do whatever it takes to get to the promised land, get to that championship. And
Mhm.
I want to give you a chance to shout out some of your teammates, whether it's from FGCU, even your time at East Carolina, or just players at the Division I level altogether that you might know in this segment
Yeah.
called Who's Up Next, where you
Mhm.
get to get this chance to shout them out so they can hop on, talk about their careers, tell their stories just as you're doing now. So, who would you say is next up on the Slim Sports podcast?
Next up, who I would like to see. Can I shout out a couple?
Yeah, you can shout out a couple.
Okay, so I would say Serena Rowe, Sanai Douglas, Jordan Campbell, even if she talked about her past experience, because she's been here for a while. You can talk about her walk-on journey and to scholarship. Eve Alexander. I'm really trying to name everybody on my team, honestly. Jaleigh O'Neal, Era. Who else? Malka, Anna. I really feel like everybody on the roster deserves a shout out. But from my people from ECU, I don't know if you know Maya Joyner. She went from ECU to LSU. She had a great season. Um, Danae McNeil, Nate Staten, Lauren Taylor, Amani Jefferson. I can go on and name, but hopefully they'll be on the podcast next.
Hey, trust me, there's a few of them that I'm already planning on reaching out to, and
Yeah.
definitely can't wait to see who's willing to hop on the podcast, tell their story. You already know that this time next year, you definitely
Mhm.
have a spot on the podcast after you guys go off and obviously win the ASUN championship, just like you're planning, doing all that stuff. So we're gonna have a whole lot of stuff to talk about next year. We're already planning on it. But I
Yeah.
want to ask you real quick for this last question.
Yeah.
What's next for you and your game? Obviously, we know that you're a great shooter. We know that you're able to score at all three levels. And I mentioned obviously the big block that you had. You have a good defensive presence as
Yeah.
being this taller guard with a long wingspan. But
Mhm.
what would you say is next in your game that you're looking to improve during this off season to
Mhm.
where you can go off and maybe average double figures, be an all conference caliber player next season, but most
Yeah.
importantly, lead FGCU to that championship?
Yeah, so I want to be a three-way player. I know I got some mid-range in there, some games, but just being more consistent with that and also get into the basket. I feel like the past season, I wasn't really getting to the basket much and just finishing. So just being a three-way player, and not just, on the scout. Maybe I heard one coach say two-way player, like trying to tell the person who was guarding me, like, what do I do? But just being, more versatile, not predictable, not where they can say, oh, she likes to go right, just more predictable. Obviously still being a great three-point shooter, but just more versatile, get into the basket, pulling up, also better on ball handling too. And
Hey,
then obviously the defense too. But I feel like defense has always been a good thing for me.
Hey, there you go. Definitely can't wait to see what's in store for you and the Eagles in the 26-27 season coming up. Definitely
Mhm.
excited to see FGCU continue this new era, continue to grow, and hopefully very soon make it back to March Madness once again with you obviously leading the way. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to hop on the Slim Sports podcast for a fantastic interview.
Of course. Thank you for having me.